Good evening. Today is Friday, August 2023rd, 2024. Our goal here is to review today's market generated information in a holistic fashion. We are intimately following the auction's narrative of both ES and NQ. If we have time, we'll theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. We did indeed speculate in the market today. Please see our video posted. It does contain our real-time analysis. We use these archives as part of our tools for our professional development. All right, let's begin. Same stuff every day. Let's start with our summary questions. Where was the market coming from? And what was the goal? What was the market trying to accomplish? All right, so we're going to look at the monthly candle here. It's actually the weekly. Look at the monthly candle, and of course, you'll have a little sneak peek and see how we finished. Interesting. Okay, for our daily candles, again, we won't belabor this too much. Bull flag for the prior week. The week, last week, we have our continuation of the rally-based rally. And then as we get into our days here, I believe this is Monday. Yeah, Monday, we started with the impulse consolidation, possible failed rally, maybe more hints of the failed rally on Thursday. We have some people thinking that we're getting ready to go back down, possibly retest some of these other zones. But again, if you look at our homework that we did yesterday, we saw the little nuances and subtle clues of the breadth for the market overall. So very nice day overall from our defensives and some of our other key sectors. That's not just technology. So the goal really was to build above this zone here from mid-July and hopefully start one time framing again, making a higher high and a higher low. But this overall was just an inside bar. So I mean, we built volume higher. I want to say that the Bulls completed their job. We would need to dig a little deeper to see how well of a job they did, but we closed above the prior day's open and we closed above, all of our action for the week. So overall, very solid day from the buyers. Not saying that it was a bear sentiment at all in the morning, but there were some people thinking that getting a little ahead of themselves. My apology for the noise outside. Hold on. All right, my apologies about that. All right, and same situation for the NQ. Hopefully to build volume higher. Notice they're a little bit weaker, but again, this is for the overall market. This just isn't tech. Though we do go as tech goes. Another inside bar. So we have a impulse day with increasing volume on Thursday, and then an inside bar that's next. And notice we're back below. We're still below our 5-day simple moving average for the daily. So again, a little weaker for tech, but we can look at the nuances shortly. So buyers completed their goal. Tech, I'm gonna say no. Maybe about a half and half to a degree. But let's look at what we had on the docket, see if we can get a little more context because that's just a bit vague. So we're looking at last week, which will be this week here. So Friday the 23rd. Again, we had our Jackson Hole, which was much shorter than I thought. I'm learning more about it. And then we had our new home sales, of course, and then just another speaker, Goolsby, that was speaking. So very much anticipated, but we'll look at the reaction shortly. Looking at the actual sector tracker, we're up 115 basis points, with the outperformers being, who do we have? Discretionary energy showing out today alongside real estate. This was just nice from everyone. I'm not surprised. No, utilities aren't really a sexy name. So they didn't get too much love today, as well as our staples. But this is perfectly fine. We want to see these defensives, not necessarily leading when we have a dip that can be bought. So technology really led the way here. But very nice, just nice overall. And flipping back over to the 5-day. Before we go to the 5-day, just keep an eye on healthcare and financials again. They've been a little bit weird, but they were sturdy yesterday. So again, this is nice to see. We don't want to see everybody just outperform. This is nice breadth overall, and more of what we were saying here. So over the 5-day range, S&P is up about 50 basis points, with our weakest leading the charge. Not weakest, but the not as heavy weighted sectors, but that's more of a defensive posture. So you would ask, why is it that we're kind of gearing up for defense near these highs? That's just a little interesting. Not necessarily gearing up for defense, but I'm not sure what this means. This is something that we are noticing, though. I just want to look at the monthly just for the hell of it. Ooh. You can pause that and look at that. We're not going to stay on that. I want to come back and look at that at another time. We won't spend too much time there. So, how good of a job? Solid job for ES. Meh. 5 out of 10 for the NQ for technology. And were there any surprises? Just looking at the 10,000 foot view, I won't say really any surprises. We'll look a little more deeper at the counter structure shortly. So let's look at the footprint. We can see our stats here at the bottom. We have our delta, excess buyers, about 7,600. First time we've been positive since Monday. It's interesting. Volume, highest. We're increasing volume every day. Something to be aware of. Look at the positioning of the sell imbalances here. VPOC is near the top quarter. Not the best position for the sellers, especially when you look at over the past couple of days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now Friday, just a lot of sellers in here that really don't have the best position to end the week if they have not offset their trades. And again, this is just the accumulation of these sellers here at this price between these 40s and these 20s. And as of right now, we have closed at our 50s, I believe, 51. So, just clues, just some information for us to take down, not bullish or bearish. We look at the NQ, same situation here. Inside bar, volume, increasing, about the same, much increasing, kind of tapering off just a little bit. But the same situation, we have heavy buyers, sellers increasing each day, and now we're about neutral. VPOC at the middle, volume point of control. Sellers, still very nice positioning for the sellers in here. Looking at the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, very nice on this for the seller side. So definitely interesting with the differences between the S&P 500, who has more sectors or more evenly weighted, opposed to just the technology sector, just the technology as a whole. All right, we will go here to our market profile. Again, we have our prior week candle, and we have our current week. These will be our composites. And notice that zone that we've been speaking of recently from this weekly composite, just this empty space here. Not really having much volume done here. And that's exactly the shape for today. Don't you guys think that's pretty interesting? Especially with it being the tech, we're imagining that we balanced a little lower. So this makes perfect sense. So I like looking at the market as like some puzzle pieces. So when you look at it, and again, we've been talking about this for the whole week. Look at that. It just fits in perfectly. So that's why I like auction market theory. This makes sense to me. Yeah, just getting a little better every day. Just worked out a little nicer. We had the singles. These have been eaten up. That was from, I think it was yesterday. And really, nothing too much to glean from this action itself. But it's definitely a nice rejection candle. We go up here, we come down, No attempt to get back up at all. And we're stuck in this range. So very nice. We shall put that together. And then honestly, this is just one big consolidation range. Of course, we had a little impulse here, but we pretty much just pulled back and now we're just balanced for the most part. So what we're going to do is merge this to the other week. So at this point, this goes from the second week of August. And notice it's just a high P-shaped profile. And then we have some more zones down here. So I would imagine if we fall below these 580s, buyers are going to be in some hurt here because we're getting into some empty space all in here. Their only kind of defense is this composite. This is a nice little high volume zone here. So will be interesting once we get in here. The only disadvantage for the buyers is that if we do slip these 580s, within the 400s and the 300, we have these singles. Very thin structure that typically ends up being auctioned at a future reference point. So interesting from the NQ. We'll leave that as a composite. And let's see what it looks like for ES, who should balance a little higher today. So we were mainly focusing on these 27s, and I don't recall of this level here, these 28s. Let's keep this at a constant range. Scoot this back a wee bit. That should look a little nicer for you. Again, we are not looking here. Do not look here. This is just for the composite. We are looking at the prior week, same situation. You can see the structure down here. Prior week, we're just zoomed in. And then we have our weekly composite here, which is still very much of a P shape. Little jagged edges near the middle and the latter portion of it. So here, this will be today. High profile. I mean, higher P, mainly multi-distributed. You have these lumps here, 2 and 3. So definitely some battling going on today. You can see the structure is much different here. If we end up merging these together, really not much changes. Again, it's just like a high cluster zone here, but very nice from the same the bottom of this zone that we have here. This is the 16s. This is where we've been watching these sellers for the most part, and this is still actually the VPOC zone. This is where most the volume pointer control. It's where the majority of the volume has taken place around these low 20s, these mid 20s zone that we have. And we can add another little section here. This is just like a little gap. We'll just leave this as gray for now. Again, this is just a note for me. Thursday, I think it was the 18th. Low volume node. So this is just a sign for me that we'll come back potentially in the future and maybe just kind of base around there a little bit. All right. So we're going to end up merging this together as well. We will put this back on automatic, fix out our screen, pardon your eyes. And then the same situation here, high P, multi-distributed. Again, you can look at some of our other notes and see just where we are on a higher time frame. But again, we're just struggling at this, not struggling, but we're just hanging around these highs here. It's around these 56, 40s, 50s. Yeah, 66, 40s, and 50s. We've been doing a great job with our saying our prices out loud. So solid work. I'm just leaving that there. I don't like the little gap here. But okay, so very good on our volume profile. Basically, we're building volume higher. We have some caution below us under the 600s for NQ. And we have nothing to entertain on the short side for ES. We can have that conversation if we break these 5590s, which is 70 points away, about 2 different zones. Time check, we're at 15 minutes. Awesome. Okay, we shall look at the intraday. I'll just take a quick look at the 138-minute candles. I just like the way these look. 2 hours and 18 minutes. You can see where we're at here, how we transpired this week. basically basing around this zone here, ended up agreeing and spinning more volume into here. This is what we were looking at the volume profile for NQ. And in the same situation for ES, bouncing off this 822 zone that we had from the prior days. Again, this was yesterday, and then basically the same thing for today, except we stopped right above. So very nice price acceptance, higher overall for ES, except higher above here. Looking at the footprint, back to the ES. Really not too much to say here. The very whipsaw, volatile behavior here. Open here at the low, sellers tried to keep it down. They ended up breaking through. Notice the thin structure. Notice the thin structure here. Basically ended up coming up, found some sellers. Sellers ended up pushing this down. The same sellers still ended up pushing it down here. Buyers tried to hold, forced all the way down. Long wick. This is still aftermath of Jackson Hole. Buyers ended up pushing it back up. So now we have a whole bunch of sellers and some buyers that's just kind of stuck here. But if you're here at the highs, if you're a seller, you still have good position, unless the majority was down here. But if you look at the delta, shouldn't be too many ill position shorts. I would imagine this is a lot of ask and buy deltas at the lows. If you really wanted to, actually, just for the hell of it, let's break this into 15 minutes because I'm curious. So the majority of the volume was taken here, and that was about the middle of this range. So yeah, this wasn't really too much here. This was it's about neutral. The majority of that delta came from that 7 a.m. them forcing through the Jackson Hole response and the new homes data. So the majority of that volume was really done in here. So yeah, you have a lot of buyers that are up here and clearly towards these highs for the imbalance. And then some sellers ended up stepping in. You can see it a little clearer here. So again, you have nice position on sellers, and you can look at the DOM in real time. And you can see this. Yeah. So I mean, we ended up having some pressure downs. Buyers brought it back up. Again, this is just a lot of pressure that we're just dealing with at this point. So we ended up opening here higher, ended up pushing it all the way down, and then more two-way trading back up. Now sellers are off balance for this most part. You can see the negative delta here. If this is thin volume here, thin volume, and not much here with no real imbalances. Notice all the little light cells. If the cluster is here alongside the volume point of control and down here as well, you have a shitload of sellers that are stuck between the 25s and the 19s. Now, doesn't those numbers sound familiar? That's the same damn zone that we've been talking about all week. So more sellers are stuck down here. As we ended up shooting up, we ended up closing 10, 15 points higher. So at this point, they just have they're at the disadvantage for position. They're still trying here, and then they just had to liquidate here towards the end. So definitely more sellers are up here as well. Because price definitely could have went up a bit more, but we didn't really push too much at this point here, which is interesting to see as well. We didn't make a new high for the day. Hence the inside bar for the whole session. So same situation here for the NQ. We're not going to go over the delta, but you can imagine the same story here. And remember, they are a bit weaker, so you notice the position for the sellers are a little better, and they're more willing to sell at lower prices as well. Even when they are caught off balance, you don't get much excursion to the upside. Even with buyers pushing on the delta, and volume is still fairly decent. No real activity on this fine Friday. All right, and then we'll go ahead and hit the candle structures to see how we traded exactly from the overnight in relation to how we traded today in relation to overnight and the prior day. All right, so coin flip. Let's say we start with NQ. No, let's start with ES. No, actually, we'll start with NQ because NQ is a little weaker, just so we can see difference between weakness and strength. Let's see if there's anything that we can glean just from looking. So I always like to start with context and just have some history. It's incredibly important. You don't just trade in a vacuum. You're trading off reference from somewhere. The market remembers. The market has history. I digress. Look at the prior day's overnight session. Bounced off the IB prior IB high. We ended up having our sell-off day, and this is that open rejection reverse. Please look at the review from last night, and you can see that in details. So all that has transpired, and typically, if you have a big sell-off day like this, stop the video and ask yourself, what should happen? What should happen in the overnight? Okay. If you did stop the video and think about that, give yourself two scenarios. There's no way you should have a response of we're gonna drift up 200 points. So, looking at this in the overnight session, as we started our morning, again, you can see our real time analysis for our prep and as we did all this. So, this is definitely hinting towards the bullish side and a little less bearishness, but not overly bullish because you're still, even though you had a very nice drift up, you can't forget what happened and why we're in this place, why we're in this spot in the first place. So, we're still well away from the damn low point of the first 30 minutes, the IB low. For most people, it's the first hour. So as we open into the RTH session, again, we are simply awaiting Powell, Jerome Powell for the Jackson Hole. My apologies, fixing this is showing the overnight session. So we're waiting for Powell. We end up opening. We end up opening, looking like another potential open rejection reverse, or at this point for the first bar, a possible overdrive, open drive lower. But again, we did a great job with that prep. I won't belabor that here, but we ended up kind of scooping down, cradling down, and finding our way with an open auction, literally closing at the open. So we remain unbalanced, still bullish, but incredibly bearish as we're coming from the prior IB low. So we're about neutral. SOC, their event happens. Powell speaks, drops his speech, and the new home sales data. We completely shoot up, break the overnight highs, and then we just pretty much chop sideways. We have longer ranges below and above and below, one up, one down, two up, two down, three down actually. Well, actually, three up, four down. Kind of doji, sit down, coil sideways, kind of compressing a little bit. There's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion here. And then again, you can look at this on our replay and see how this actually transpired in a way that we were seeing it in real time. But if I recall, this was very rapid, but forceful at the same time. And then in the same situation, where do we stop? And again, we are below the IB low. But at this point, when we come down here, we're still just in the overnight range, near the lows for the prior day. So again, you would imagine a lot of people thinking, hey, we may end up having a very nice sell-off day, but we actually just have more of the same, where we sell off, we end up having, trying to grind back up, trying to fight it. Yesterday wasn't really the best example, but I mean, you really got the same action on Wednesday, on Tuesday, and definitely on Monday because we had our impulse day. So I mean, there was only one day this week where you saw actual continuation for the selling. Didn't happen on Tuesday, didn't happen Wednesday. Sure, it happened on Thursday, but you really got more of the same on Friday, but just more extended ranges than prior. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, really not too much. You trade up, you trade down. You trade in the middle, you trade down. You trade back up, and then you just balance. It's really not too much to talk about. If you look at the actual SOC event, if you use this as a catalyst for the narrative, we're trading a little bit above, but we can't stay but we can't stay above the SOC high. We break below, and we continually fight our way back into that range. Can't stay below the IB low, so we end up going back into this SOC low, which was the open, also the IB high, and we really just closed above. So I mean, it's really not much has changed. It's just more balanced. You really can't talk much about the end of the day if it's balance or if it's a trend. It pretty much speaks for itself. Now, if you look at, let's see if we can find any subtle nuances between the ES. I believe they were a little weaker the other day. Again, you can look at the review because they're bouncing off their prior IB mid for two overnights ago. Same sell off, same drift up, but they covered a little more ground. Getting into the middle of their little sell off. I will put a Fibonacci, but I pass. There you go. Got my hotkeys. Look at me. All right, we'll go ahead and break this into the RTA session. Same situation here where we're coiling. We've seen a lot of coiling this week. We ended up coiling, breaking up, and the same thing. Really can't trade too much above, really not too much below, and we're staying within this IB range here, staying within the initial balance. So this is very, not necessarily bullish, but it's a sign of strength and the breadth that we were looking at. Same situation here, two-way up, two-way down, two-way up, and a much stronger close. And if anything, this is a very nice close. The fact that the same impulse that we saw initially on the DOM, that's where we closed. So this is a very nice showcase for the buyers. Their initial response is how they finished it. And again, we saw this on the Sector Tractor and everything. So very nice session for the bull. So I mean, overall, if we ask how well of a job they did, damn good job for the buyers, damn good job for the NQ as well. Their numbers aren't pretty, they may not look the best, but very nice day off that surprise sell-off. They were ready. What else can you say? All right, see if I have a few notes. All right, so we mentioned basically same kind of behavior all week. Two-way trading, balance, a little different each day. We have regarding next week. Well, actually, before we get into next week, so this is just another day where we tested one side of the range and ended up closing on the other side of the IB range, which would be a neutral extreme, if I understand correctly. Regarding next week, we actually one more thing. My apologies. So again, since we did close at the where this SOC was, the SOC high, standard crime high for this 7 a.m. candle, that's actually back into the IB low of the prior day. So we had this huge sell-off, not huge, relatively huge. Excuse me. We had this down day. We had an extended down day, a trend down day, and we ended up closing right back in the middle of the first 30 minutes the next day. Very nice from the ES, and I want to give that same respect to NQ just so you can see the difference. We'll dump off the overnight session. Same down day. Okay, so as long as you see the difference. So much weaker on NQ overall. So I do take that back, saying they did a damn good job. This is very weak, and we tried. I actually want to take. Can I go back? Actually want to take this back once more, so you can see where they tried, where we tried again just to even get back, and they closed below actually this range here. They closed below the two failures. So lower high, lower high, lower high, still a lower high. Yes. So this is actually pretty weak for ES, but for NQ, but they closed above their IB high, and that's only because the first bracket was extremely tight. Which brings me to my other point. We've seen this a lot this week of these really tight coiling ranges. So that's something that we want to work more about. Basically, if we break above, we need to be mindful of it. It's Friday, Thursday. Not so much for the first bracket. Look at the second bracket. I mean, yeah, look at the second bracket there. And then definitely not there on this Tuesday. Definitely on Monday as well. So I'll definitely need to go back and see, is this something that we see a little more often than I recall? but I'm definitely picking this up a bit more, and I wanted to point this out to you and see if this made sense. Coiling and then you're breaking, shit really both breaking above and you're having some sort of response. This is basically a coiling here, to be honest. You went up and you went down. So a lot of balance action. We need to learn how to add this to our arsenal. If we break above, seeing if we can like find some kind of support. I won't theorize too much on it, but hopefully you get my point. And then just a few thoughts for next week. Calendar, we do have some 5:30 datas for sure. Have two there. We have 6 a.m., 7 a.m. here on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, we have earnings for NVIDIA and a few other well-known companies for sure. I know Dell's going to be important as well. I'm more focused on technology from my experience, but definitely some retail. I'm assuming these are discretionaries as well. So Wednesday is going to be very large for NVIDIA. Unsure about the response. We're not going to have any theories on that yet. We need more information for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, to be honest, to even add commentary, but I'm probably going to record that as well. We have our 5:30s, 7 a.m. on Thursday, and then a slew of 5:30s again on that Friday, plus the 6:45 PMI, and then at 7 a.m. again. And then next week we have our employment, and then just more. So we're starting to get into it. And then the following week is going to be Labor Day on that Monday too. So sorry we ran a little long over today. Um, yeah, thank you for you guys who have joined. I appreciate you. Subscribing. If you have any comments, man, please drop them. I'll be happy to get some feedback from you guys. Thank y'all. Take care.